Test. Test. Welcome everyone to this first live stream. I'm sorry that it took so long until it started. I'm still trying to figure out how everything works, and I hope the settings are fine. You can hear me. There are some problems with the connection, so I hope everything works. Yeah, it's the first time I stream with Streamlabs and with Restream, so I can stream on two different platforms, YouTube and Twitch. And yeah, I hope it works. It's the first time I'm doing so. I also will try to look at both chats if there are any questions or so. And the boomer I am, I have nothing flashy prepared for you guys. It says PowerPoint like introduction to the project I'm doing here. So this is not PowerPoint, what you see here. This is GIMP 2.0. And I use GIMP because I can draw a couple some stuff in it, what helps. So, but let's come to my project. I want to create a game completely from scratch, and I will show you how to create the game without resources or even experiences or anything like that. So if you always had the interest to create your own game, you don't know how to start or anything like that, I will help you guide through that while working on my own game, the game I want to pitch today. And I also want a little bit talk about my channels and so on. So like I said, the idea is without creating a game without resources or even without experience. So when I say resources, you still need a lot of your time if you want to create a game. So I'm not talking about months here, I'm talking about years if you want to create a good game, a decent game with decent amount of content. So if you want to create a game, you still need dedication, hard work. You have to be open to learn something new if you don't know how game engines work or 3D modeling softwares and so on. And I also said that you need invest a lot of your time. So here I won't lie, here it's a little bit a bargain. If you don't want to spend your money, then you need to do things on your own, and that costs time. I mean, you can buy assets in asset stores. You can go in Google. There are many sites that give you textures, 3D assets, animations, and even coding for your games. However, you have to pay for that. You also can pay an expert or a professional to do the work for you. If you don't want to invest money, then you have to invest your time to learn the things yourself, and to create it yourself, because creating animations, creating a 3D object, doing all the coding for yourself, all these things, they cost, of course, time. So I also told you that you don't need any experience. I'm not a professional developer. I have 20-year experience in gaming, so I play games for over 20 years. The story of my game I want to pitch today, I started writing almost 7 years ago, and 3 years ago I started with the idea to make a game out of the story, and 2 years ago I really started to do that, invest a lot of time to do so. I started to make a test game, and I'm now confident enough to introduce this project to you. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. I hope everything works fine, and I'm sure I will get a lot smoother talking to you guys. So, like I said, there are free softwares out there that help you creating your own game. The softwares I will use is, number one, 3D for 3D modeling is Blender. Like I said, Blender is free. There are, of course, alternatives. There is 3D Max, but as far as I know, the alternative, you have to pay money, pay for licenses and so on. Blender is completely free. It is, of course, not the perfect software, but like I said, it does the job, and you don't have to spend money for it. Then for 2D, like you see, I use GIMP. You can also use Photoshop if you like to. 2D, if you want to make a 3D game, you can do things like textures. What is 2D? Textures are 2D. You can do these things in Blender or in the other 3D modeling softwares without a problem. But sometimes it helps to have to just have a 2D software. So sometimes it's easier to work in 2D than in 3D. And then finally the game engine. I'm using Unreal Engine 4, and there is of course always the question between the big two free software game engines, Unreal Engine 4 or Unity. I'm using Unreal Engine 4 because when I looked up the both engines, what I found out is that there are add-ons and just tools in Unity that you need to pay extra. In Unreal Engine 4 everything is free, and I mean, like I said, this is like 3 years ago when I checked that. Maybe today it's different, maybe Unity is now 100% free. I just know that Unreal Engine 4 is free. The only thing is, as soon as you want to sell your game, you have to give money, like 5% or something like that, to Epic Games. That's the drawback if you use Unreal Engine 4. Also, both engines, they have the advantages and disadvantages. There is no perfect software, but Unreal Engine 4 is a little bit harder to learn, but you can really do incredible stuff in it. So let's come back to my live streams. I want to do my channels, YouTube channels. I want to, like I said, I want to give you a guide how to start your own game. What I don't want to do is a step-by-step tutorial of everything. That's for different reasons. One reason is, like I said, I learned everything myself over the internet tutorials by others and people who have better expertise in some areas than I have. Even professionals who make tutorials, and they can help you a lot better than I can. Then, yeah. So that's one. I'm sorry, I was just checking the chat. So that's the one reason why I don't want to give you a step-by-step tutorial. Also, if you can, it depends on your game design. Maybe your game design is completely different from mine. So there are probably better ways to do stuff than I do. because I still want to follow my own project, create my own project. And I will follow the steps I have to do for my project. I also don't want to dictate to you how to do it. There are many ways to do stuff. I want to provide you with ideas, like I said, how to start, what do you have to think about, what can you do with the engines and the softwares you can I show you on my channel, and so on. However, for every stream I will give you the tutorials I was using for learning this stuff, or providing another tutorial if needed, so you can look these things up yourself, or you just Google these tutorials for yourself. And there are many step-by-step guides for smaller stuff, and like I said, I just want to give you this overall guide. You can follow my project and get ideas. That's the main thing I want to do with this channel. And if you have questions or anything like that, you're also always welcome to come to one of my live chats and talk directly to me, or you can send me a private message at k.d.gameprojects. Is it not visible? I just see. One moment. Yeah, sorry about. I will provide you the links in the description later after I'm finished with the stream, or when I take a short break. I'm sorry about that. You can see it when I open up the. Oh, God damn. Yeah, I'm still learning Streamlabs. I'm sorry about that. I will provide you all the links. So my PM is k.d.gameprojects@gmail.com. You can private message me there. My YouTube channel is also KD Game Projects. That's one of my channels, but right now the main channel I use is KD Game Impressions. I just think that it's easier to grow up one channel and then split up into a second channel, because I want to do the live streams and everything about the project here and things like that. I want to do in a separate channel, and that channel I use right now, KD Game Impressions, will be more critical stuff about modern gaming and so on, and just talking about games, not my games, AAA games and other games, indie games, and so on. Also, my Twitch channel is KD underline game projects, and I also have a Twitter, but I'm not a big fan of Twitter, so I only will kind of write news there. So if you want questions answered fast, I would recommend you to send a PM. I will put everything in the description. I'm sorry about that. And let's just jump into what we see. I want to pitch you my project. The project name is Sun World in Pieces. This is a working title for now. I will explain why or how I came to that title name later on. So introductions we made. Now I want to go to the pitch. I will talk about game design, game mechanics, story, and monetizations. How I want to monetize the game. I want to talk about that very short. And after that, I want to go a little bit more into detail about characters, about some of the game mechanics. And that's actually already all. So let's go to the game design. The game design, it is inspired by JRPGs. It will be turn-based, and at this moment I probably have lost a couple of you guys interest if you're only interested in the game itself. I really hope the stream works smoothly. I have a little bit problem. Anyway, let's go back. But that's okay if you're not interested into JRPGs, and then maybe I will have later a game project that will interest you more or anything like that. But here I want to give you my first really tip if you want to create your own game. You need to know and understand your niche you want to work in. One of the biggest problems of AAA games is that these games, they don't know the niche anymore. These games are not made for a certain group of people with a certain taste. They are made for reaching as many people as possible. And you may now think, yeah, I want to do that too, reach as many as possible, but I want to remember to you don't have the same resources like them. You can spend so much money in marketing and things like that. So you don't want to compete with AAA companies. And for that, you need your own niche, and you need to know your own niche. You don't have to invent the wheel new. I can tell you something. If you have a game design that was never made before, there is a big chance that someone thought about it, but it wasn't good enough to make a game out of it. So like I said, absolutely, if this is your first project, go look at indie projects, go look at retro games, and find out the niche you are interested in creating, and so on. That will help you a lot. However, don't just copy things. You can, of course, there is a nostalgia factor in it, but there are many games that came out over crowdfunding or anything like that, that tried only with the nostalgia factor and just copy retro games, game design, and in the end they didn't work out so well. So you still have to find your own ideas and so on, and that's why I say find your niche. Find a niche you yourself like and enjoy, and you think you can add something interesting to it. And with that, let's go back to game design. Like I said, it's inspired by JRPGs, it's turn-based, because I like JRPGs, turn-based JRPGs, and I personally think I can give a game experience that takes this genre, people who know the niche, but also I can add something new new to it, so they have a completely new game experience. It is also a very narrative-driven game, and I will come back to that when I talk a little bit about the story. There will be multiple characters in it. You will follow different storylines, and you can kind of jump between the storylines and the different characters. It won't be an open world game for different reasons. One of these reasons is creating an open world. It takes a lot of time, a lot of assets, and so on. It's much easier to work with smaller maps. A second reason is, you will see when I talk about the story. Story-wise, it doesn't work for my game to be completely open world. And the third part is I personally don't even like this game design of open world. But that's just me personally. If you want to do an open world, I will suggest that you don't do the world at the beginning. Work out your game design, your game mechanics, and test it out in a smaller map, and then you always can expand the map and even make an open world. That's always possible later. Let's go to, no, not here, to the game mechanics. Let's talk about combat. So probably the combat system won't be something that, like I said, I won't invent a real new. I think I have a very interesting progression system. Also, the combat system has some couple of new interesting things in it, or it's a kind of style you maybe didn't have seen before. I mean, let's get to it, or I forget what I want to say. So, classic turn-based would probably be, you have 3 characters and a certain amount of monsters. That is kind of classic. I don't know yet, honestly. Will I do 3 characters or more characters? So maybe I have to say, to the game mechanics, everything here is still concept. So what I say here, it may not keep. These are a lot of ideas I just push out there, and maybe some of these ideas won't work then later on when I start to program the game and so on. So combat is turn-based. You have your, why is it not working? Okay, sorry. You have your main character against an enemy, as example, and you have 2 bars you have to look out for. You have your hit points, of course, and then a second bar. You could call it stamina, I call it energy, for a reason. So every move you do will cost you energy. Energy will, when you walk in the world or even in combat, over time it will come back, like your stamina comes back when you do nothing. But every time you do something, you do an attack or the enemy attacks you, you will lose stamina. Is the stamina 0, you kind of will get fall in a coma or so, and after a short amount of time you will come back. So this is a little bit a tactical thing added to the HP bar that will be in the game. There will be attacks that focus on the enemy's energy, draw out the enemy's energy, or stronger attacks that will take a bigger amount of your energy. So you have to kind of look on your energy. Of course, there will be items to push up your energy. So game will be a little bit, you can really go tactical, or you just can grind levels, improve your attributes and so on, and then just force your way through your enemies. So it's both possible. You don't have to go full tactical, but you will get some interesting stuff out of the attack. There will be also different types of attacks. There will be short-ranged attacks, mid-ranged attacks, and long-ranged attacks, plus tech weapon attacks. I will explain a little bit later, and energy attacks. Like I said, maybe I won't call them energy attacks. Maybe I will call them special attacks. They will be very effective, but will use a lot of energy. If you have an enemy, the enemy will have different hit points. I will now kinda. Maybe he has a shield, maybe he has a sword here. And then maybe you have 3 different hit points. The head, the shield, and the sword. This will depend on the type of attack you will use. Let's make a cross here. I should have choose another color. Yeah, whatever. Depending on the attack you choose to do, you get different hit points. As example, if you have a very tall enemy, then with short attacks you can't reach the top of the enemy or things like that. Also, with the hit points you choose, you can, as example, choose to attack his weapon, and then you can destroy his weapon, but will take away his power, and he will do less damage and things like that. Or you can decide to attack his shield. His shield will of course have more. You will do less damage to the enemy when you attack the shield. However, so in this case maybe the head will be the fastest way to kill him. But however, if you destroy equipment, body parts and things, or weapons and things like that of your enemies, you will get extra loot, and with the loot you can then craft new items or improve the items you have. So every of you, yeah, let's not go too much into details with these things. I also think about that you can learn outside of the world or in combat, like new hit points that are weaknesses of the enemies. So what happens now if you destroy the shield or the weapon, then the attitude of the enemy will change. Maybe he will get angry and more aggressive. That means he deals more damage. But however, he will open up his weak points, so you also can do more damage. Or he will be more cautious and protect his weak points and things like that. So that these are a little bit the tactical parts in the combat system. Did I want to say something else here? Yeah, I don't want to go. I already give too much IDs and things like that. I think more interesting will be the progression system. The progression systems will have 3 parts in it. One part will be completely automatic and random way your character improves, and the other 2 will be more controlled by the player itself. The first one is you will improve your characters, the attribute points of your characters while fighting itself. If you have an enemy that is strong in defense and you attack him, then your strength will go up. If you have an enemy that is fast, that is agile and so on, and you manage to hit him, then your speed will go up, and things like that. So this will be really depending on what enemies you will meet, how their attribute points are, how your attribute points are, and what kind of type of attack you will use. So so that's one part of improving your character, is just fighting. Second will be that every enemy will kind of lose an attribute stone. So when you have an enemy that has a strong defense, he will lose after you defeat him, lose a defense stone, and with that then you can manually improve one of your character's defense. So with that you can decide yourself a little bit in which attributes you want to improve your characters, plus there is this automatic random way you can improve in the game by just fighting different types of enemies. And this will be extremely random, then even the same enemy won't always have the same attributes and so on. The third way to improve your character is what I would call is learn and practice. So you can learn new attributes in combat directly. You can learn it outside of combat. I will come to that, and so on. And as soon as you use a technique, an attack type, then this attack you will get experience points for this attack, and then you can level up this specific technique. I mean attack type or skill, or how you want to call it. By improving the level of one skill, you can learn stronger skills. You can learn stronger skills, but you also get attribute points. As example, an attack that focuses only on strength, if you level this up, you will get extra points to the attribute strength, and so on. So there will be many ways to improve your characters. The idea is that after a certain amount of time, the characters of different players will be completely different, because there are so many ways you will improve, and there is this random factor and so on, and you can manually say, yeah, I want how to improve your characters. As example, you can say, yeah, I want my character to be only strong in short ranged combat and so on, and then you have really strong attacks for short range. However, maybe some enemies are very strong against short-ranged attacks. Maybe there is a flying enemy and you can't even reach with short-range attacks, and then your character will be maybe not saying useless, but less effective, and things like that. So you have to know yourself how you want to improve the characters. I think I talked too much about this stuff right now. I think as soon as you see the game and maybe play it yourself, you will understand it better. Right now it's maybe a little bit too complicated, and I don't explain it very well, to be honest. But that's just kind of the idea, that there is a lot of freedom in the progression system. However, there won't be any mechanic like if you improve the charisma of your character, you can talk your way out or something like that. That won't be in the game. Also, the story progression will be linear. With that I mean there won't be different endings or so, there's only one story. Let's talk just a little bit about the other mechanics in place. There will be in the world, you will find these resting places. You can think about them like safe spots. However, the game will save progress continually while you play the game. So you don't need to go to the rest place to save or something like that. There is an autosave and everything like that. However, the rest place will be very useful for different things. First, you can recover your energy or stamina, or however I will call it, on the resting place. You can put items in a box, and with that you can give items to completely different characters that have like I said, there will be different storylines, so you can give the items to a character in a other storyline. So you can these attribute stones, give it to another character and improve his attributes and so on. You also will have the possibility to craft new items like accessoires that give you some bonus effects. You can customize your character, change his clothes and so on. You also can improve accessoires, clothes, your own weapon there with the items you find, and you can learn new attacks and so on. Let me copy this one here. No, I shouldn't have done that. Sorry about that. Let me make a new one. So learning new abilities, maybe I want to go a little bit into that. It's like there will be different tiers. Oh man, I can't write tier 1, 2, 3 as example. And then you can learn an ability here that will lead you to learn an ability here, and then maybe you have a completely different ability. Let's say this is short-ranged ability, this is long-ranged ability, and then you can learn an ability here, and if you learn this too, then maybe you can learn a third tier ability. It's kind of like that. What I don't know is if you have to invest some kind of points, if you get something like experience points from combat, and then you have to invest points to learn abilities. Again, I extremely explained that really bad. But I just throw out some ideas, and then let's go into the last one before we go to the story. The last one will be the lose mechanic. There will be no death mechanic in that sense. What I mean with that is that if you lose, you will restart at a certain point or so, and lose all the things you did until this point. If you lose, you will get back to one of your resting places, and you will lose all attribute stones you gathered from that point. That's the only two penalties you have. However, everything else, every attribute, every improvement you gathered until this point, you will keep. So even if you lose, you won't lose everything. You still get stronger like that. And like I said, there won't be a death mechanic like that. And the thing is, you can only, these attribute stones you only can use at resting places. I forgot to say that. That's why you will lose some progress if you lose a match. Let's go to the story, because it's quite difficult to explain this. The story of my game. Imagine this, in ancient time the world looked very similar to ours. The only difference was that the world had an energy source that was infinite. When I imagine a very strong energy source, I always kind of think about the sun. And if you wonder from where, let's draw a sun here or something like that. If you wonder from where the name is coming, sun, it's from the German word Sonne, so it has nothing to do with sun, the English word sun, or anything like that. And that's because I always imagine this magical energy source that has infinite amount of energy, as it looks kind of like the sun. It's something like a sphere, and the energy, it's just, you see it really with fire and light coming out and things like that. So when I say the energy source is infinite, then I mean it can't be, the energy won't end over time. However, if many people use this energy source, these are people, if you wondered, or too many people used in this ancient time this energy source, and then this energy got unstable, and the whole energy exploded and it ripped the world into pieces. And that's the second part of the name of my game, World in Pieces. So it didn't destroy the world, to be clear. It didn't destroy the world, but it deformed it. And the story will be thousands of years after this event. At the time, this is just a legend, and you can imagine the world. There is a core, and there are some kind of plateaus coming out of it, something like that. And the people of the modern world, they live on these plateaus here. There is also a island in the sky that is slowly, kind of like a moon, but still in the atmosphere, going around the world. And we have 7 different worlds in here that have completely different conditions. Let's see, there will be I have to do it a little bit bigger. There will be a desert world, Hello. Would you please work? There will be a desert world. I don't think I have to explain that in detail. There will be a winter world. There will be a water world, what is islands, small islands in a big ocean. There will be a forest world or jungle, or more jungle area. There will be a shadow world. Oh, come on. There will be a shadow world. This is a plateau that's under another plateau, and there is only one day in the year that the constellations are right. That's so you have actually light on this world. The rest of the year it's completely in darkness. And you have a mountain world, if you want to call it like that. There's just almost no foliage or fauna or anything like that, and really hard stones. And then you have of course, like I said, the Sky Island, the island that is in the sky. And you have the core itself. You can call it a fire world, because there is in this world it's very hot there in the core, and you will have this. You will have volcanoes. You will have lava. The air is actually toxic there. In this world, so humans can only live there for a couple of days, and I will come back to that. Or no, or I just say it like now. Because of that, the core of the island, because you can't really freely travel through the core of the island and so on, because it's really dangerous. All these worlds, they can I say it? God damn it! You know, they in technology and everything like that, they evolved. Now I have it. They evolved differently, completely different from each other, and some are more advanced than others and things like that, because there is almost no communications between these different folks and so on. Also, on every world, the people that live there, they of course adapted to the conditions of this world, and they completely look different. As example, in the desert world, the people that live there, they have browner skin because of the desert sun, because it's very hot. So they have darker skin. They have Asian eyes because of the sand. While going to the winter world, if you look there, the people are, let's say, thicker. They have a lot more hair. The hair are just as are thicker, of course, just as natural. Because it's so cold there, and so on. It's just a natural protection they have. They also have white hair, white or gray hair, and they have reddish eyes, and that's because if you think you have a landscape that's really white with snow and so on, it's very difficult for us to see different forms and so on. So the people there evolved like this. They kind of see more in the infrared area, and so they can see better shapes in a completely white area. So they don't look I mean, they don't have completely infrared, but they just go more into the infrared area, and that's why their eyes are reddish. So I also have to say that so every world has kind of the people that live there, they just look different, and so on. And you kind of have to say that in 2018, what is pretty sad that you have to say that, but I don't want to make any cultural statement here or anything like that. I really was thinking, when I think about the conditions of the world, I was thinking what is the most appropriate type, how the people evolved, like that. When you look at the desert, it just makes sense that as protection against the sun, that they have darker skins and so on. And like I also said, all the cultures you have there in these different plateaus or worlds, how you want to call it, they really have they advance differently, they have different technologies and things like that. As example, when you go in the forest, what did I write here? In the forest world, in the more god damn it, in the more jungle area, you really have the folks are very tribal. They're in little, they live together in little groups. They are kind of primitive. They still use bow and arrows or spears as weapons or to hunt and things like that. They also have belief in different things than other worlds. As examples, in the forest world, they believe they have these big massive trees, and these big massive trees that live thousands of years, and they believe that the gods live in these trees. So so they really worship these trees. They build their cities, not cities, their little villages around these trees. They look out for the trees because it's a bad omen when the trees get sick. Then the complete opposite of that will be the Sky Island. The people in the Sky Island, they are very advanced. Maybe they live in some kind of steampunk area of late 18th century or early 19th century, something like that. They invented airships that can travel through the air to different plateaus and so on. And also their religion is more like Christianity kind of type of religion. And with that, I just want to say there is very different cultures on these different worlds. You will find they are different advanced. They use different weapons and like that. So now they have one thing in common, and that's their energy source. I told you that there was this big massive energy source that thousands of years ripped the whole world in pieces, and also this energy source broke down into pieces, and they are so-called sunstones that give you energy. So I won't go anywhere into detail how they can take this energy out and use it. They just do it, and they all made themselves dependable on this energy source. As example, when we go to the shadow world, in the shadow world, it's a very hostile area. Everything there are predators, and they also eat humans, and they use the shadows, the darkness to hunt. So the people there learn to use the stones for lightening up their cities and villages. So they really depend on these stones and things like that. So now we have the problem that when the story starts, really these resources of these zone stones gets more and more rarer. It's harder to find them, and so on. And this will lead to conflicts. This will lead to betrayal and things like that. And that's kind of where the story starts, is in this world where a global war is kind of coming, because there is this energy resource that just gets harder and harder to find. Yes, that's so much to the world building. I'm just looking to the different platforms. So thanks for the people who stick around. Like I said, I'm a little bit nervous to talk about it, and I hope that I will talk a little bit smoother than that. I should have written a script. I want to go into details about some of the characters a little bit later. I want to talk about monetization for a very short moment. So the good news is the game will be free. It will be, you can play it free. I will, as soon as there is a playable versions, I will put it out there, and you can try it out if you want, and you can give feedback and things like that. That's always welcome. Because I'm creating these games on limited resources, I use free softwares and so on, and only my time. I only invest a lot of my time in it, and because I'm not a professional, I just don't want to put a pay tag on the game. That just wouldn't make sense. However, I will later on install a Patreon, and Patreons will get some bonus content, kind of extra customizations things, or some extra side missions and things like that. At the moment, I don't have the Patreon yet, just because I don't think, as long as I don't have anything I can give you, it doesn't make sense for me to open a Patreon. I know there are YouTubers that offer some things like having a Discord chat and things like that, but I personally, I just don't see it doing that. So as long as the product, as I can give you at least a test version of the game, I won't open up a Patreon. Of course, you can always over Streamlabs donate something if you want to support me, but of course you absolutely don't need to do something like that. Now the bad news is that, but that's only if possible, I will look for partners who want to put ads into the game, because it is free, and of course the Patreon versions won't get ads. I have no idea how I want to put the ads in. I want to do it as less aggressive as possible, but I mean, that's still something that's far into the future. I have no idea if there is any interest for this game or anything like that. And like I said, if you're interested in the game, I just pitched extremely badly. or if you're interested in how to start your own games, getting ideas, where to start, which softwares to use, and anything like that, then please follow me on YouTube or Twitch or anything like that, because I will do from now on a lot more live streams. I will start a little bit slower, not like every day going 100% and doing every day something. I will start a little bit slower, maybe in 2 or 3 days I will do the next live stream or so, and then when I get used to it, I will stream more. Because like I said, this is not I'm not getting any money out of it. So this is not, I have another job, so I don't want to go over 100% into this project and then I burn out in a month or something like that. So I will start a little bit slower, and then as soon as I get the rhythm and get into it, I will probably make a regular schedule or something like that. I probably will also try out different times than this here. Also, as soon as I will can show you some really in the engine or in the 3D model software or anything like that, it will be a lot easier for me to talk. I'm also not, because I can show you the things I'm talking about, what will help a lot, and I also have to get used to it. You see, I'm really not used to it to really talk about this stuff so freely. So if you're still interested, I mean, you can always ask questions. I try to keep both chats visual. Yes, but if you're interested, I will go a little bit into details of the story with the characters, and also something about the game mechanics. Just so you can learn a little bit more about the world. That's for you if you're interested in the game. If you're just interested about the ideas I have, or something like that. Or maybe let's do first the game mechanics, and then I will talk about the story. Finish the stream with talking about more details about the story. I think that's better. So if you're only interested in the technical parts, you know that you can then leave if you don't have any questions or anything like that. And what you see here are the attribute points. I just want to go short into that. And again, these are just ideas I throw out there. It's about leveling up your characters here. Here again I have the 5 different attack types: short-range attacks, mid-range attacks, long-range attacks, the tech weapon attacks, and energy attacks or special attacks, or how you want to call it. And depending on the character you play, he will probably be strong in maybe long-ranged or short-ranged, or maybe he has tech weapon and so on. And like I said, there will be, it's multiple storylines. You will follow multiple characters, and every character has his own style, his own weapon, and things like that. So like, as example, if you follow one of the Sky people who are really advanced, you probably will be strong in tech weapons and things like that. So if you go to the attributes, right now I have 21 attributes, and every attribute does something a little bit different. Like I said, this may change in the future. Maybe I add some, maybe I take some away. sorry about that. I have only one phone, so I kind of switch between the chats if I see if there is a question or anything. You see here, as one example is strength, or you can also call it upper arm strength. And just as examples, when you attack an enemy, SRA is short range attacks, so short range attacks you do a lot of damage. You don't use much energy while using it. Then mid-range attacks is slightly better. It's a little bit a weaker bonus if your strength is high. And then long-range attacks, only the recovery time goes down. And also this will help defending. It will blocking enemy attacks will go up and things like that. As another example, speed, the recovery time. I didn't really talk about the recovery time. Every time you use an attack, you have to wait until you can move again. So it's not completely turn-based. If you know, Grandia was a game that used a similar mechanic, that when you used an attack, then you had to recover until you could use the next attack, and depending on the attack you use, this time is faster or longer, things like that. Also speed will improve your hit chance, things like that. Then this is also interesting, courage will improve your short ranged attacks, and there's all things like that. Or composure will more affect your long ranged attacks. Then things like knowledge and so will improve your tech weapon attacks, intelligent tech weapon. Resistance, spirit will your energy attacks and so on. And then we also have some kind of this luck that just will improve the hit chances or things like that in general. It just will, over the whole spectrum, kind of improve your character's attribute. Yeah, I don't think it's worth to go more into the game mechanics here. It's really difficult to talk about it absolutely because, like I said, everything is still a concept. So I would say, let's say I go back into the story, and then after that wrap it up, this first stream, and then the next stream we go more in the probably for you more interesting stuff in the technical things. I will showing. I also already have planned the next stream. Maybe I can talk shortly about that. I will show you in Blender how to create a skeletal mesh. That means I will create some kind of puppet that looks a little bit like a human. I mean, it will have arms and legs, and out of that, this very simple form will then later create a more detailed character, and then we will give this character an skeletal or armature, and with the armature you then can make animations. Then I will show you how to import the skeletal mesh into Unreal Engine. Then I will create the play character with the puppet I created, and just show you that you can then walk around in the world with these created characters by you. And then finally I will also go into creating the save mechanics for the game. That's for the next stream. Planned for the next stream. These are very basic stuffs we will set up then for later on making more detailed stuff. So, and with that I kind of want to just go back to the story. Let's create here a new thing. So there will, like I said, there will be multiple characters in the game you can play, and different storylines, and as the story progresses you will meet these different characters, maybe as friends or maybe as foes. I won't tell you now how it will be. So there are quite different characters there. I don't want to go into everyone. I kind of want to talk about some of them in these different worlds, just to bring you these worlds a little bit closer. However, there will also be, if I will choose main character, I would say there are two. There is the good guy and there is the villain, and the villain is one of the most important characters in the game because he really brings the story into motion. Let's say it like this. One moment. So let's talk first about these two characters, and first about the hero character, if you can say it like that. The hero character lives in the desert world, and there are two kind of people living there. There is a big city that has a little bit of higher technologies, and many or most of the people living in the desert, living in this big city, having a little bit of easier life. And then there are still parts, more tribal-like people who are wandering folks. They walk from one water source. They set their camp there at the water source, and as soon as this water source is empty, they go to the next water source. Maybe I will give you some, if you kind of so you have a kind of idea what I'm talking about. Yes. What you see here is of one of these plateaus I talked about. If you would cut it in the middle, so this is sand here, and this is a little bit stronger, like substance like granite or anything like that. So now in the desert, when it rains, the water will go down the sand, and it will save in kind of pools in the harder crust of the plateau. And now these wandering folks who live here, they know where these pools are, where the water sources are, so they make camp over the water source, and as soon as they used it up, they will wander to the next water source, and so on. And now the main character I want to talk about is part of one of these wandering folks. His name is Alan. He will have kind of have some typical, maybe a little bit typical coming on age story. When the game starts, he is 15 and he is very close to 16, and when he is 16, he counts as adult under his people, and he can make decisions. So what Alan's thing is that he is not very happy with the kind of harsh life he has, and he kind of wants a different life. He thinks a lot about the people who live in the city, and things like that. Sorry. So again, if you have just kind of questions about the more technical aspects I talked about, how to create the game, I still will be happy to answer them, or you just can listen if you want. So like I said, he really thinks about another life a lot. What his job is he's a searcher. That means he's looking for these sunstones I talked about earlier that give energy. To kind of explain why they need this source is because they invented these massive drills that bring them to the water source, down to the water source, and sorry about that. They have these massive drills that bring them down to the water source. So maybe drills is not the right word for it, because it's more like shovel, bringing the sand up while going down and then just blowing the sand somewhere else, and then they can put on hydraulics that pumps up the water. That's kind of technology, and for what they need these water sources, for what they need is energy stones. And Alan has a lot of ideas how to improve the lifestyles and so on, but no one really is listening to him because he's still so young. Alan has a younger brother, and I'm sorry I forgot the name. Like I said, I started to write the story 7 years ago, and I have sometimes trouble to remember names. He has a father, and he has also a sister, and of course a mother. So Alan will of course be a playable character. You will follow him a lot. Alan will be a playable character. He will Alan, his little brother, will have his own story. I'm not sure about the father yet, if he will be playable, to be honest. He will there are some scenes with him you could make him playable, but I'm not sure if it's enough to really make him a interesting playable character. And his sister and mother, they just will be there for the story. Yes, like I said, Alan is really dreaming from he wants a different lifestyle and so on. And then an event happens, I don't want to spoil him, that will separate him from his family. And he will kind of get a different lifestyle, but definitely not the one he wants. And he gets really into this whole conflict that takes later on that goes almost global later on. Then his little brother, in the same event, he also gets separated, but he will also be separated from his older brother. He will have his own storyline. I can go a little bit more into it without spoiling too much of the story right now. And his faith is he will stay in the desert world, so Alan will go around to other worlds and things like that, but his little brother will stay in the desert world. And there is in the city I talked about, in the desert city, there is kind of a political change happening, and the city was, at the moment the story starts, the city is a little bit democratical. It's like the richest families kind of make democratical decisions, but there is one guy who betrays some of the families and brings some of the other families under his hut, and he kind of makes a more authoritarian country. And there are rebels, the Red Hyenas, who fight against him, and Alan will be, not Alan, I'm sorry, Alan's little brother will be dragged in this whole conflict, and Alan will not have much to do with that conflict. He will have a total different story. So what kind of is with Alan? So in the world there is all these kind of technology factors I talked about, the different advanced cultures and so on, but there also is a little bit spiritual thing, absolutely in contrast with the whole energy thing and so on. And his Alan's little brother, he is actually, he has some kind of gift, and that's he can talk to animals. That's something he doesn't know at the beginning, but he kind of comes home. He comes home one time with a venomous snake or something like that, and everyone goes crazy, but the snake doesn't bite him, and so on. He's just very good with animals, and that will get later on. And then later on he learns that he actually can really talk to the animals, give them even commands and so on. And that will go into the gameplay, that will go into the story. That's how much I can say about him. About these two characters. Let's go to the villain. The villain is named Harald Silverwings. Silverwings is just a nickname he got because I have to talk first about this. Harald is part of the Sky People. The Sky People are very tall, slender characters. They have bluish hair and that almost look like feather. Maybe I will even design them that they have feathers. I'm not sure yet. And however, Harald he has very bright colors. It's almost white, and you just a little bit of blue. And his mother that died years ago told him that his hair looks like silver rings, and he really liked that, so he kept the name. So Harald is not physical a strong person, but he has a lot of powers because he's the Sky People. They are a monarchy, and his father is the king, so he's the prince. So he's actually the second second powerful person in the Sky Islands. And what kind of deal is with the Sky People? They really look down onto the other folks. They don't think they kind of think they are in the sky because they are the chosen ones and things like that. So they really look down on the other folks down in their worlds, and they think they're better. And Harald is nothing different. So now the problem with them is they have really advanced the most, so they use up the technology uses a lot of energies. As example, their sky ships, they only use sun energy to move around. That's how they work. And you can imagine on the Sky Island there are limited resources. So what they do up to this point the most is kind of go to the people down and they give their technology for stones, so they have more energy they can use. However, this very democratic way of handling with zone stones, with this energy source, that's fine and good as long as there is enough of this source. But like I said, the resources of the stones, they are going down. It's more difficult to find them. So from there, the sky people feel like they have to get the stones more forceful, kind of like that, and that's where Harald kind of comes into play. Harald he also thinks a little bit different than his father, and with that I have to go into the story a little bit more. I try to not to spoil too much up, but we are here anyway at the beginning of the story and things like so. There's not much to spoil, but there is one thing I have to say, and there is a legend, a known legend, and that there are 7 sun crystals, and the legend says if you get all 7 together, you get this legendary infinite energy source back together. And Harald, he really is into this legend. He really believes it is so. These stones exist, and that these crystals exist, and one crystal is in every world except for the core. That's at least what the legend says. So in the desert world is one crystal, in the winter world is one crystal, in the sky island is one crystal, and so on. And he thinks for the future of the sky people, he has to find these 7 stores. However, his father, who is the king, he doesn't believe in this legend. So what he does is he is really creating a military force to conquer the other folks. And that's kind of where where Harald's character really shines out. He's really mad at his father, and he doesn't care about other people's life. I don't want to go into that right now, but I mean, there, let's say gore and blood, it won't be a big part of the game, but there are some really more major scenes in the game who really show some of the characteristics of some people, let's say it like this. Is there something else I can talk about Harald? Yeah, so Harald is also, because he gets sent a lot from his father, he gets sent to the other worlds to kind of have these diplomatic exchanges and so on, so he kind of knows the other folks and so on a little bit better than others, because he came in contact with them, and because he has this conflict with his father, that his father he just thinks about building a military force and conquer the world, while he thinks about gathering together these 7 crystals to save his people. He will start this kind of internal conflict on the Sky Island with his father, and he will kind of go his own way to find these crystals. And I think that's as much as I want to spoil about this character. Maybe what I can say, like I said, he is not physically very powerful, so he has his loyal guard, really strong guy who who has also no scruple or anything like that, who doesn't mind killing for his master or for Harald. So if Harald just says, points to a child and says, kill him, he wouldn't think twice and just go and murder the child. Let's talk about the winter world. No, not yet. The Shadow World. Like I said, in the Shadow World, this is probably the most dangerous place where people live, except for the core, because it is dark the whole year except for one day in the year, and everything there are predators who eat humans and so on. The worst kind of predators are owls, really monstrous owls who just come down from the dark sky and can pick up a human without a problem and take them away. And the only thing to protect yourself from the owls is to have light, to light up your cities and so on. But there are also other predators who are more human-like and almost wage war or something like that. Through this very hostile area they live in, these people, everyone from man, women, everyone, they are just warriors. They live to survive, not nothing else. They can fight. All of them can fight and so on. The main character is Marlock. He is the Lightbringer, so-called Lightbringer of his people. Lightbringer comes from a legend in this world, and the legend is that there was an evil god that, not surprisingly, looks like a big owl, even bigger than the other ones that exist there. And it was a god that could, it was a monster that could devour complete cities of people and so on. And in the legend, this evil god attacked the city they live in, and then he came between the city and the monster with a sword that was illuminated, that just put out light and so on, and he managed to cut off a wing of the god, but he died in the fight. Not the god, the Lightbringer died in the fight, and what happened was that the god couldn't fly anymore and wasn't a big danger anymore. And just the guys who live there, they still believe in this legend and so on. So the weapon is lost. I don't want to spoil anything, but the weapon that he used then will come up in the story again. But like I said, they still believe in this legend, and so the highest ranked warrior of the city is called Lightbringer. And Marlock, the character we will follow here, is the Lightbringer of his the Lightbringer of the city he lives in. So now the problem is that they need the sunstones, this energy source, to lighten up their cities, and they only can find, of course, these light sources outside of the city where there is no light. So they have always to risk their lives to get these stones back and so on. And he always has to lead his soldiers to get these stones, so his people can survive for a while longer. Now he has a kind of a little bit of conflict in itself, in himself, and that's a memory that comes up over and over again. And I said there is a one day in the year that the whole world is in light, not in darkness, and that's when they celebrate. So they lie down their weapons and they instead take up instruments, and they just celebrate this one day. For one day they can think about something else than just surviving and really just live the life, let's say it like this. Marlock has this memory of his childhood when there was this day of light, and he was thinking about, and he's thinking about the girl he met at that time, and the girl was extremely special. And now I forgot to tell you something about the people who live here. Like again, they look different than others in other worlds. They have very dark skins. I mean, not brownish skins, almost black skins. And the reason is just because these really dark skins will, of course, give them some natural protection against the predators who live there, because it's of course harder to spot people who are dark. Now this girl, she got born with a pale skin, with almost white skin. Also, she was afraid of the dark, what it's like. You can't live in the shadow world and be afraid of the dark. Let's just say it like this. And so, because of that, the parents of that girl, they risked their life to bring the child to the edge of the world where the shadow world is connected with the core, and they met someone there. They gave the child away so she can live somewhere else than the shadow world, because she was just not made for this world. And Marlock is thinking about this girl more and more, and he's kind of like, life can't just be survive another day and so on. So he decides to stop being the light bringer of his world, of the city, and go to another world to look for this girl he thinks about. Of course, everyone thinks he's completely crazy and so on. Why would he do that? He doesn't even know if the girl is still alive, but he just has this urge. He just can't live anymore, only to survive. He kind of thinks there has to be more. And of course, some of them taunt him and say, yeah, there are other girls in the city, and he's the light bringer, he can take anyone he wants, and so on. But he made his decision. So on the day of light, the one day in the year there is light, he decides to leave his world, because that's the only time he can travel to the edge of the world without being attacked all the time, because when there is darkness he will be attacked all the time, and if there is an owl, there is no chance for him to survive. So he has to take on his journey when there is light, and that's what he does. When everyone is celebrating, he leaves the city, and so his story kind of starts there. Let's go to the winter world. In the winter world, the main character we follow, his name is Dan. He has also a nickname that is White Wolf. So now in the Wind world there is also a clear hierarchy. There are workers who mostly work in mines and get sunstones. You see these sunstones, this energy source. It's a theme in every world, and there are always workers or people who want these stones. And of course, you can imagine for what they use these sunstones, and that's for heating their houses and so on. That's the main reason. So there are workers, there are mercenaries, and Dawn is a mercenary, and then there are nobles, so the rich people. And it's kind of like the workers, they work, so they get sunstones for the nobles, and the nobles will hire some mercenaries for doing their dirty work and things like that. And Dunn is a mercenary, and that's why he has a nickname like White Wolf. Everyone, to protect themselves from other mercenaries and nobles, they just use kind of their nickname and not their real name. That's kind of common there. So Don is not a person with a lot of ambitions, let's say it like that. He's married to alcohol. Let's say it like this. He goes every night. He just goes drinks until he passes out, and so on. And when he doesn't have any money anymore, he takes a job as a mercenary. He gets money, and then he gets drunk until he doesn't have money anymore. And his story kind of starts at the point when he has no alcohol, he has no money, so he goes to the nearest city and looks up if there is a job for him, and surprisingly immediately something comes up. There is a noble guy that was attacked when he was traveling between cities by an ape-like or yeti, you can call it yeti-like monster, attacked his caravan. He was traveling, so you have to see, because there is everything in snow and ice, they travel with snowmobile like cars, let's say like that. The winter world is also quite advanced. They have these snowmobiles, and they have also the best weapons of all the worlds, and that kind of comes with this global conflict, because also the sky people know that they are they have very good weapons, and they kind of want their want to recruit the scientists from the winter world so they can create weapons for them. And of course, if they don't want to be recruited, they just take them by force. But that's that goes already a little bit too far with Dan's story, because he just wants to have some coins so he can go get drink some more. And the noble, he kind of says he gives 100 silver flakes. So silver flakes are just the currency they use in this world, for the one who gets the head of the monster who attacked him. And he will also give the one who gets the head of the monster position as his guard, because his guard got killed in this attack, also his personal guard. And Dawn is not really interested in the position he offers, but of course he's interested in the coins. So he wants to try to find the this monster, and he teams up with another guy. I called back then Bloodhound because of Game of Thrones. I don't know if I want to change that name. I will see. I called him Bloodhound because he is a very good tracker, and they team up because Bloodhound finds out that the monster got away in a very dangerous area, so they can team up, go after the monster, and they manage to capture the monster and not capture the monster but kill the monster. And Dan is not really an ambitious guy, but if he sees an opportunity he will take it, and he sees that Bloodhound, he is very close to a cliff, and he's down the ground he stands on. He is not very secure because of the snow and so on, so he smashes his heavy gun on the ground, and Bloodhound falls down the cliff. And while that is happening, he curses Dan out and says he will come back and kill him. And yeah, and he does that of course because he doesn't want to split the money. He just wants to get everything for himself. So he's not the very best person you can meet, let's say it like that. So when he goes back into the city, he finds out that another mercenary got the head of another Yeti-like monster and just said, yeah, that's the monster who attacked your caravan. And the nobleman believes him and gives him the reward and anything like that. So with everything, Dan ends up with nothing. So he wants to go into the next bar or tavern, or how you want to call it, and just wants to get drunk, but because he doesn't have money, he gets thrown out of the tavern, and then he realizes for him to get money he has to take on some shadier jobs, and the job he takes on is for a company that mines sunstones. And the problem is that kind of pirates, you can call them snow pirates, always attack the caravans with who bring the sunstones to the city and so on. So he gets sent out to protect this caravan, and with that he kind of gets into the wheel of the story with that happening. So these are mostly the characters that I want to talk the most. I'm not so sure if I can manage to do so, but I hope I can find the mechanics so you can jump between characters, so you don't have to play. So it will be probably split into chapters or things like that, the story. So you kind of can jump between the characters, and if you are bored with one character and the story there, you can jump to another character and kind of play with that with him for a while, and then you can jump to another character and so on, and so proceed in the different storylines. Of course, there will be limitations because of the story. You can't go too far with one character, but as example, you can go if you have finished the chapter storyline of one character, you still can go play with him and kind of just go explore the maps and grind levels and things like that. That still will be possible. That's at least the ideas I have. So kind of the other worlds, I just want to talk really shortly about them and the characters in there, because we almost are now 2 hours in, and yeah, I'm streaming almost for 2 hours talking about this, and I'm pretty sure everyone that is still listening is probably bored right now. Let's go to the water world for very short. Like I said, the water world is an ocean, and there are small islands where people live on. The people who live there, they have very good very strong lung. They can keep themselves underwater for very long. They have thin skin between their fingers and toes, so they can swim fast and so on. However, they also have ships and so on. Now, in this world we have kinda it's hard to say 2 countries or something like that, but 2 areas. There's the East Islands. They are very rich, they have a lot of resources and so on, and the Western Islands, they are very poor and so on, and because of that the Western Islanders, some of them decided to be pirates and attack the ships of the Eastern Islands, and this led to a full war between these 2 sides, and the West is clearly losing it. So, and we are already when we come to this world, we are already in the middle of this conflict, and the main character, he is commander of a ship in the yes, be silent. Sorry, my cat. He is the commander or the captain, sorry, of a. Do you say captain or commander of a fleet or admiral? Yeah, but probably admiral, right? And of the Western islands who kind of came together to fight against the Eastern, and because they are losing, this is kind of their really last attempt to give their enemies a hard blow, and it's almost a suicidal mission. And so when we come the first time into this world, we will probably play as him, and we will see this attack, and he loses his ship, many die, and he also only survives to wander almost, and then he gets back to the Western Islands, and they lost everything. They lost their main force, and there is absolutely nothing they can do against the Eastern fleet to invade their islands and take their islands over and so on. However, at this point the Sky People come and they offer them technology for Sunstones, technology that can change the tide of the battle, and so that's kind of how he gets into the whole conflict, because he has to decide to take the offer or lose the war, and he takes the offer. There is also a second story there with a girl on the Western Islands. She is kind of like a pearl diver. She dives down to the bottom of the oceans and looks for stones and so on. That's her job and so on. And there will be some kind of this conflicted love story between these two, because they are in this living in this conflicted areas between West and East. Let's go very short to the jungle or forest world. Should I take the other screen up? Where did I put? Yeah, here. So we talked about desert, winter, water, shadow, the sky island. Not much left. The forest world, like I said, there are extremely tribal, and do I want to talk a lot about them? Just the main characters. It's a woman, and so in general, women are in this society not really hunters or so. They have to stay home and cook. However, she has a really good talent as a hunter, and so that's why they accept her as a hunter. However, as she gets older, they kind of want her to get a husband and so on. That's kind of her story, and I because it's a little bit spoiler, I don't want to get into how she gets into the whole global conflict, and keep it with that. I also don't want to talk about the core too much. There are mostly monsters living there. Like I said, it's quite a hostile place. Humans can only survive for a couple of days there. However, there are kind of how should I say, so kind of lizard people living there that are not hostile to humans and so on, and they also interact with humans from time to time. There will also be a story there. This story is extremely spoiler, has a lot of spoilers, so I don't want to get into that too much. Let's finish it with the mountain. So the mountain area, because it's actually mostly stone, there is no real vegetation or anything like that, or not a lot of vegetation. There are actually no native people living there. However, the sky people, they found out that there is a lot of sunstone in these mountains. So what they did is they enslaved some of criminals of their own, and also they started to kidnap people from other worlds to work in these mines as slaves, of course. The character we follow here is a political prisoner, let's say it like that. He is one of the sky people who spoke out against the king, and for that he got sent to the mines to work. So sky people, they don't live very long in these mines. First, the whole conditions in the mines is one of the problems, because there is not so much security. There is a lot of cave-ins. Then they don't get a lot of food. They break down because of the hard work and things like that. but also because the Sky people are not so, even the criminals are not very loved under the other slaves, of course. They see them, even the slaves, as enemy, so when the guards don't look, they may get pickaxe over the head or anything like that. However, he, the person we follow, he is so long there that, and so dirty and so on, so nothing. When you look at him, he doesn't resemble the Sky, one of the Sky people anymore. He has dark hair because of the dirt, and he isn't very tall because his body is, because of the hard work, deformed and things like that. And that's how he kind of managed to survive. And he has kind of these two characters in him. He has this one character who just wants to survive, just obey everything, and then he has his kind of old character when he was opposing the king, and wants and kind of wants to break out, risk his life to break out, and he gets some opportunities, let's say it like this. And that's all I want to say about the mountain world. And I think that should be enough for today. I don't think I will talk a lot about the story again. I mean, I probably will talk more about the game mechanics when I start to create them and so on. Of course, the story, I don't want to get, maybe I get into a little bit into the characters when we design them and things like that, but I think so far I already talked a lot about the story, but just to remember you, this is just everything I just talked about is still the very beginning of everything that then comes together. And yeah, and my next streams, they will be more on the technical things, on the concentrating on the software, how we create this game. Like I said, I think I repeat myself again what I have planned for the next stream. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe the day after tomorrow. I will do that. We will first create kind of human-shaped figure, very simple polygons and so on, and that has the shape and of a human and the right scales and so on, and we can then work on this puppet later on and give him more details and so on. I mean, you can't do a complete character design model in one stream. That's just not possible. But I kind of want to do different things in this first stream. Show you the softwares. So I will do that in Blender, in the 3D modeling software, and then we will jump into Unreal Engine 4. I will show you how to import this skeletal mesh we made. Out of this mesh, we will create our play character, who then we can then move around. I probably won't do any animation, so he just will kinda keep in a T pose and just float around. I mean, animations we still can do later on. I definitely will show you how you can do your own animation, and how you do your skeletal mesh will be very important. And then after that, I will show you how to create for saving the files and so on. What is very basic. and what we need from the start, because absolutely in an RPG has a lot of variables that change during the game, so we just need a an option to save from the beginning, because we have to take the variables from the save file and then load it from the save file and save it back into the save file, and if we start to create something outside of the save file, we have to redo everything. So this will be a very basic stream. We won't get deep into details, but it may give you, if you are interested to make something yourself, it may give you some ideas where you can start and so on. Yes. So with that, I thank everyone who stayed here during the whole stream or partial of the stream. Thank you very much for listening. I'm sure I'm getting better with talking. Absolutely, if I can show you the softwares and so on, it will be a lot easier for me to do so. And yeah, like I said, if you are interested in the game I talked a lot about today, or if you're interested to create your own game, if you're interested into the softwares, the engine, the 3D modeling, how it works and so on, please subscribe. There will be a lot more content coming, not only live streams. I will also do a more shorter, maybe more some shorter tutorials or just tips and tricks how to start and so on. Yes, and with that, again, thanks to everyone for staying, for listening. Like I said, I was very nervous making this stream, but I'm happy I'm done with it, because now I can really start with the project. I'm excited, and I hope some of the people who watch this stream will come back